Okay, for this video, we're going to start using Apache Superset to make charts based on the data that we imported from the last week's video. And so the Tableau class on Udemy, listed in the link, um, creates a bar chart based on the data set of the number of companies in the year that they were founded. And what you can see is that from the years 1999 to 2008, there's less than 20 companies founded per year. Whereas in the years from 2009 to 2014, there's much more than that. So to scale this graph, what he does is that he creates one column for the years between 1999 and 2008. Now in Tableau, you can do that through the UI. You can't do that through Apache Superset unless you change the source code. And so Apache Superset, you have to use the database backend to do those changes, which is okay. And so we're going to review how to do that. And that gets everybody on the same page with respect to database background. And so the first step is we're going to go to the Docker container and we're going to get access to the database through the Docker container. So what I do to make things easier is I use the exec tab in the Docker container. You can also do the same thing by running a terminal window and executing the docker exec command with the flags IT and the container name and bin bash, and then you log in and you'll get a bash shell. And so the first thing is it logs you in as user root. The first thing you do is try to get to the right user. And so you can't or you shouldn't execute commands or data manipulation using root because it'll create problems that you can't really debug later without a lot of headache and time. And so first, become user Postgres. And then once you're user Postgres, it'll tell you that on the CLI. And then run pSQL with the database examples and the user Postgres. So what that allows you to do is to list all the databases. And once you list the databases, you have to connect to the correct database. And so to connect to the database, you use the command -c, and then you'll connect to the database examples. And this gives us access to the table space where we imported the data from last week's video. And so what we're going to do to be able to create a new histogram is we're going to create a temp table with auto incrementing primary key ID with a column called count, which will be the count of the number of companies per year, and with the year for the year that count represents. And so we're going to do the insertion of data in the front end. And so the front end is accessible through the SQL lab. And so we're going to insert into our table that we just created all of the years that are greater than 2009. So that gives us the histogram of all those larger columns. So we're going to execute that. And then the next step is we're going to figure out how many companies were founded before 2009. So that gives us a sum or a count of all those smaller columns. And so we're going to run that, and we get 141. And so we're going to insert into the temp table this value 141, and we're going to use a dummy column name called 2008, even though this isn't the year 2008. And so this is a limitation with Apache Superset. We don't have the ability to change labels like we do in Tableau. We can do that as a later modification to the front end or React component. And so we're going to insert that value 141 as your 2008 for all the companies that are created before 2009. And then just as a verification step, we're going to select all these years. And so now this is for the video, but before you save this, make sure to comment out all these the SQL statements, not including the select. And so you want to just have this SQL window have this one statement, select count year from test F, and that's going to be our virtual data set. So the Apache Superset is going to run that query, and that's going to create the data set that we're going to run the chart of. And so this chart that's created is here. And what you do is you drag the column year into the x-axis, and you have to use sum count. It doesn't have, unlike Tableau, just the value of the column. So we have to use sum when this doesn't do anything. This just returns the value of the row and column with count. So this gives us the same graph as what we showed earlier.